Hello and welcome to the Our Crystal Palace podcast. This is episode 2. Well, it's actually 3. We've had 1.5. Welcome to episode 2. Arsenal 4, Palace 1. What I'm going to call 3 steps forward, 2 steps Chamakh.
That's very sharp for this early in the pod. That's very sharp.
Sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Should we talk positives from the game? Let's talk positives. I'm going to give you my positives first. We had some opportunities in front of goal, as always. Kelly had an all right chance from a corner. Zaha had a chance. Sakho's sublime pass to Tekers. And, of course, Tekers didn't do anything. Because Tekers is Tekers. He just, as much as I want the guy to succeed, I'm just really struggling to see him. Yeah.
That chance was just the perfect visualization of a lack of confidence. You could see exactly when he should have taken the shot. Last season, he would have taken it, and it would have been in the back of the net easy. Not
if
this
he was
year.
if he was wearing a Villa shirt, top Benjamins, that's where that would have gone.
In a Liverpool shirt, that'd probably be an overhead kick or something. So
yeah, while the ball was on the floor. There you go. There you go.
He was just that good.
Yeah. Any other positives?
No, I was going to say we only got one injury, which is...
We only got one injury, yes. That is
compared to the City game, that's another step forward.
That is 50% less injuries in one game, which you can't fault. You cannot fault that. And Luca is once again on the score sheet.
He's a beast.
Yeah, top scorer.
That was a really good finish.
Luca is becoming the new James MacArthur. And James MacArthur is not being James MacArthur. I don't know. I don't know. The negatives from this game, I mean, the giving away goals from set pieces to Arsenal. Set pieces to Arsenal and Nacho Monreal. Where did he come from? This was just...
He had a great,
I did not expect this sort of performance from Arsenal. I expected them to come out, capitulate in the first 5 minutes. It was very much one of those games. First goal goes in. That's going to dictate the rest of the game. They just completely walked over us.
Yeah, I think MacArthur had one of his shirts that I can remember. As did Kabay. I couldn't handle it in the defence or anything, and 10 minutes in, that causes problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I will say, as a point now, we should introduce ourselves. I am Jake Jeremy. Welcome to the cast. Who am I joined by? Lads, let us know your names.
I'm Jenson's beard.
Yes.
And I'm Don't Step on the Crack, or subreddit Grandad.
Subreddit Grandad. Yeah. Obviously, we're not joined this week by the subpar performers we had last week, Boom and Neocast. Hope you guys are going to enjoy the show.
Both of whom have been sacked.
Better quality show. Should we talk some transfers? Because I don't really want to talk about Arsenal beating us, because it's depressing. It's depressing. It happened 2 nights ago. You know what I mean? I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's over. We're moving on to West Ham. We've got.
Can I bring up one point that I think was a positive? We joke about the only one injury. I thought PVA was all right. I thought PVA, considering the remaining 10 floundering nightmares, was, he's up against a reasonable right-hand side, and he was good. He actually, we've enjoyed Schlupp. He's improved, and actually, PVA was good. PVA wasn't bad. None of their goals came from his side of the pitch. Some positive stuff from us came from his side of the pitch. That's a big step forward from PVA of 2 or 3 months ago.
It is the funny thing about our left-hand side is that we needed a left-back for ages. Then we got 3, and then we all went, but not those 3.
Yeah.
But that wants to be too cynical. Do we think PVA is just simply playing for a transfer?
Possibly. Well, is it? No, it's not Newcastle, is it? Suarez going to Newcastle. That's the rumour currently.
PVA has been linked with Everton.
That's the one.
I can't see that. I mean, he does seem the sort of player that would just follow the money. But
I think but Sam's there, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he liked playing under Sam.
But I don't think we'd sell him now. I just don't see it now.
Well, with Jeffrey Schlupp's injury, we'd be absolutely stupid to sell him. Especially if Suarez is on loan, which in itself isn't a great move. But if we get rid of Suarez and PVA, then who do we have left? Martin Kelly at left back?
That's very sadistic.
You didn't even say Wardy. You went straight for Kelly. Straight for the jugular.
Ward's injured as well. His groin still hasn't repaired from whatever he did to it.
Oh, good
Well,
point.
Frank, and again, I hasten to take too many steps backwards. Frank did teach Andros Townsend how to defend, and he is left-footed.
Fair enough.
I look forward to a team led out by Captain Andros playing in a number 3 shirt.
I mean, I look at our injury situation. We must be close. What, we 8 or 9 injuries now? Like first team players.
We've got 16 fit professionals, was what Roy said after the game. The 16 players we took were the 16 players we've got fit. He was going to take one of the reserve under 23 youth team kiddies in place of Andros, and they found out that Andros was fit enough for the bench on Friday.
Yeah, that made me laugh. Just like, he's fit enough to sit on the bench. Good for
Yeah.
him.
I mean, the fact that we're making single substitution, I think Roy only sub Arian because Johan was injured. That speaks volumes. I mean, 180 minutes with only one substitution is unheard of.
Yeah, it felt a bit like when you play an Ultimate Team and you don't want to use up a contract.
Yeah.
It felt like that a bit.
Or in career mode, you're just incredibly lazy and can't be asked to do any.
Yeah, I mean, we should have rage quit. 4-0, that's when you rage quit, surely. Just like, no,
Yeah, but that's only the first. We won. Let's be clear about this. We won the game 1-0 over the second 68 minutes.
True.
Sorry, 58 minutes.
And we didn't concede for the first 2 minutes, so that's 70 minutes lose.
Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing that in the last 14 games, we've only lost 2, and they're both to Arsenal. When you actually think about it in that context, we're doing very well. I mean, we didn't win the first 7 games. We didn't score a goal in the first 7 games. And it's like, the difference is astonishing.
So 25 games, is it 25 now? Of those 25, Hamilton was a bad performance. Man City away, probably a bad performance. Old Trafford, great. I can't think of too many.
I feel really, really bad right now.
Yeah. So, Jenson, either you're streaming the football and your internet isn't fast enough, or your mic battery isn't good enough.
Oh, shit.
It was at this point Jenson's mic completely cut out and we decided to restart. Here's an insightful point about what Roy Hodgson said.
Roy made a really interesting point, and it was clearly the point he made at half time and a change that he made for the team that just carried on. He talked about how they weren't set up as 5 in the midfield, that they started the game similar to how they did against City, similar to how they did against Arsenal when the result was actually closer at Selhurst. And he talks about a 4-5-1. And you kind of look back and think, each of those goals, they went in so fast in that first half that after the first one, you think, well, that's just a stupid corner. And then the second one, you think, oh, not again, come on. Each of them wasn't quite enough to make you think, okay, let's just put 5 across the middle, and that's going to make all the difference. But I think clearly in the second half, playing, or even after it sounds awful to even say it, after the 4th goal, playing 5 across the middle, coming out at the second half, doing exactly the same again. It's such a shame we didn't start the game with 5 across the middle. And to Jake Jeremy's point, it does highlight that these are probably 2 different games. With the only games we've lost against Arsenal, and one we weren't far away from getting a draw. And in this game, we just weren't quick enough to react, and we did set up wrong. So I don't think all is lost, and this is the start of a terrible slide.
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, I have another one of my useless stats. Last time we lost 4-1 at Arsenal away, we finished 10th in the league. The year before that, we finished 3rd in the league. So, I mean, this bodes quite well for the rest of the season.
Interesting.
Mm. It's the same as at Bristol City, 4-1 away.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with 10th. Be very happy with 10th.
And 10th certainly is not out the reach at all. I mean, the whole bottom 12 are so closely knit together that we could easily finish 8th.
Well, we were saying last time that, like, well, I was saying, and I made the other guys agree, that there's no mid-table anymore. It doesn't exist. There's no like traditional. I mean, it used to be kind of your top 2 or 3, then you kind of your Champions League and your Europa, then an actual mid-table, and then a legitimate bottom 4, bottom 5. Whereas now it's kind of we're 13th, 3 points out of the relegation zone, but then teams that are 10th and 9th are only like 5-6 points out of the relegation zone. So anyone could go down. Anyone in that strip could go down. Probably why Watford decided to sack Silva, which in my mind is just outrageous. But, it just...
Oh, I see. I was disagreeing with your mid-table point already, and I'm just going to talk all over you about the Silva thing being so wrong.
Yes.
The mid-table thing, I do think mid-table still exists. I think this season's a bad example.
Okay.
Because I think there are a bunch of teams. If you took Frank de Boer out and you put Roy Hodgson in, if you put David Moyes in instead of Bilic in the summer, and if you look at Stoke and take Mark Hughes out and put, Mr. AN other manager, and maybe Allardyce in Everton, I think there is a mid-table. I think there is a series of teams who are kind of from, let's say, 8th to 13th, 14th, who, barring a Frank de Boer, barring a Slaven Bilic, barring a Stoke getting to the first game of the season and realising they have no pace in that entire team, I think there is a mid-table there at teams that actually, and this is why Steve Parish, I think, got a little overexcited and hired Frank, and we were all kind of similarly swept up in it at the time.
Yeah,
we weren't.
It was
we,
great.
yeah,
signing.
we were in the middle of the table. We have a squad for the middle of the table, and it's just a bad season for it. And last season wasn't quite so crystal clear that there isn't a mid-table. This season, you're absolutely right. Anyone from 10th down certainly could go down. And to your point about Watford, I cannot be more pleased they've got rid of Marco Silva. A bloke who's he's just got a massive pay rise. Let's not forget he took Hull down. He didn't save them. He didn't do a Pulis. He didn't do an Allardyce. He did balls it up and get them relegated. Now, granted, they were probably by all accounts off the pitch, they were Sunderland standard in terms of disorganised and a bit shit. But he didn't save them. He still got offered a better job by Watford. He takes that Watford job, and weeks into it, I mean, we're talking 12 weeks at the most, maybe 14, 16. They turn around as Everton say, "Oh, have you seen our shitty team? Ignore the millions of pounds they're paying you at Watford. Have you ever seen the Northeast? Or sorry, the Northwest, where we're definitely the biggest team in Liverpool." And we've, have you seen Wayne Rooney? He's at the peak of his career.
We're going to get Walcott.
Yeah, and we've just sold Lukaku. And you're looking at that Everton thing and thinking, right, the only thing Marco Silva can do here that's respectful to Watford is say, "Thanks very much. It's really kind of you. I know I was great at Olympiacos and Hull was just a blip. I'll come back to me maybe at the end of the season." Because I could have brought Hull back up and I didn't. That would have been the nice thing to do, but I'd fucked off and I've taken this job at Watford. But now you want me to fuck off again? And the whole thing is that he publicly, or his agent and everything, seems to come out and say, "Fuck it, yeah, Watford should be opening their hands and just taking loads of money here and risking relegation." Because that Watford were they 6th or 7th or something stupid like that when this happened? The bloke deserves, I was going to say one of those words that would have had to been bleeped out. He deserved a kick in the something, because
I mean, I don't want to make this the Marco Silva podcast, but with Hull, I think with Hull, the problem was, I think they gave him the job with the idea that we're probably going to get relegated. Here's a guy that's going to hopefully get us back up. He's someone for the future. He's a good manager. He's not proven in England, but I think he's got an opportunity here to bring a team back up because I think Hull knew they were going down. I think from even up to the point where we saved ourselves at the end of the season, where we got that ridiculously lucky goal in the first, was it 10 minutes? Where Zaha just
The Zaha one, yeah.
Yeah, just stole it. But it's difficult because I can understand him wanting to stay in the Premier League because it is the biggest league in the world right now. I mean, the top 6 teams realistically are. I mean, City have run away with it this season, which is it's like the old days of United just winning the league every year. But the quality of player that we have now in this country, I can see why you'd want to stay in the Premier League. But the problem is, it's not just. It used to be just players that did this. Look at Sanchez. He's going to Man United just for money. I mean, he's not going to win anything, is he? United aren't going to win anything. They ain't going to win the league. They ain't going to win the Champions League.
He wasn't going to win anything at Arsenal either. So.
Yeah, granted, but he's going to get 400 grand a week. So it's just everything's money motivated.
So if I can just bring it back to Palace quickly on this.
What?
Give this the Palace podcast. Yeah, obviously, look back in hindsight, but going back to the start of the season when we wanted Marco Silva. It was Marco Silva, Pellegrino, and Frank de Boer. Yep. We all wanted Marco Silva. He went to Watford. Would we now take Marco Silva then, knowing we were going to get Roy Hodgson later in the season? Obviously, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but looking at it now, would we rather Marco than Roy?
Well, it's a difficult one because is he going to move? Would you move to Everton based on the fact that I'd say that Palace are a bigger club than Watford? If we're looking at it genuinely,
yes.
Do we generally think they're a bigger club? Okay.
Yes. I mean, I may be biased in that one as a Palace fan, but yeah.
I mean, maybe we are. Maybe we are a bigger team.
We've had 4 stands on them. They only built their 4th stand a couple of years ago.
That's the best comparison of a big team. So a team with like an octagonal stadium would just is the supreme team of the world.
So you're saying
why do you think Steve Parish is adding an extra couple of sides on in between the home stand and the main stand?
So you're saying that if the UFC had a football team,
they would be big.
It would be the best team ever, with Brock Lesnar up front.
Well, I don't know about best ever, because I mean, remember Newcastle were the biggest team, and look at them, they're 15th.
Yeah, good point. Shall we talk transfers? Should we move on to transfers? And obviously, it's the middle of silly season. Everything's happening to every other club, but more importantly, we have a confirmed signing, and we have a sort of nearly confirmed Erdal Rakip, if I'm saying that right.
I'm glad you said that first.
Yeah. On loan from Benfica, Swedish under-21 player, just signed to Benfica from Malmo.
So he's technically a Benfica player coming over here on loan from us?
Yeah. Yes, but he only just signed for Benfica at the end of last season.
Ah, right. So he's... Okay.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody really know a huge amount about him? I mean, he looks like he'll be an excellent sort of squad player. It doesn't look like he'll get in the first 11 straight away.
No.
But we need squad players.
Yeah, but realistically, though, I think Hodgson's made the point himself that if you really wanted to get players that are above and beyond the quality that we currently have, you're going to have to spend an awful lot of money, which is difficult to do in January. So if we get squad players who can hold the fort until Sacco comes back, one of 5 that we're trying to sign, Sacco comes back, you got players like Joel Ward is still injured, Kabai is now possibly injured for a long time. If we can bring players in to just kind of hold the middle ground, keep them on loan to the rest of the season, there's a chance. I mean, he's only 21. So,
and if it's true, I mean, obviously our ITK on the sub has told us there's a buyout clause of about 10 million euros. If that's true, we should take it with a pinch of salt. If it is, then that's a perfect option that if he turns out to be great, we can go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get players on loan to get some sort of gauge as to how well they're doing before you shell out. I mean, Gyro was 8 million, and at first it was like, oh no. I mean, he's come good now. He's playing quite well now, but we seem to be a club that yes, he is near Cass. He is playing well. Shut the fuck up. It's difficult to judge. I mean, when we got Loftus-Cheek in at first, it was kind of like, he should be at that kind of top level. I mean, he's obviously a Chelsea player, but it's kind of like, well, let's try him out for a season. I'm still in the back of my mind thinking that we might be able to get Loftus-Cheek at the end of the season.
How much do you think he'd be available for? I can't see less than £20 million. Really.
I was 20 is exactly what I was thinking. 20 is the number I was thinking.
If he's
Is
injured,
that a fair price for someone who's played so few games and he's become our Ledley King? He has become our. He's awesome, but clearly he can't play more than one game a week and train.
I mean, in terms of the inflated prices of players these days, you're not going to get him for less than 20. I mean, you could argue he's not worth 20, but
I can't see Roy going down that route. If he does stay on for another 18 months or so, I can't see him wanting to go in for £20 million for someone like him. When he was at Fulham, he would always buy these unknown Eastern Europeans. He'd buy 5 of them. One of them would be good. The other 4 would be terrible.
I don't think Roy's a choice in this. I think it's all Dougie and Parish.
Yeah.
I don't think even that much of this is Dougie. I really don't. And I think that the one thing that I do think implies that Hodgson has some influence over the transfers. The new lad, Erkdal, it's Rakip, isn't it? Fuck knows, the Swedish fella. The Swedish fella, who only speaks Swedish, by the way. That's the bit that I think is the key knowledge here of why Roy may have had some involvement, because Roy speaks Swedish and was the manager of Malmo for like 5 or 6 seasons. Because there is a bit of me that's for those, I assume, of the two of you who've maybe seen the YouTube introduction video of him, it's Chris Grierson talking to him in English, and there's a fella sitting next to Chris Grierson who's clearly speaks Swedish and English, telling beardy Swedish football man the question, and then giving Chris Grierson the answer. So for all we know, he could be saying, I'd never heard of Palace till last week. And then Benfica said, you're not going to play this season. And I heard that Roy Hodgson was really famous in England as well as in Malmo. So I thought, well, why not? But, Chris Grierson's put the subtitles in there of, oh yeah, they're fantastic. But I do think that that's where there's a little sign that Roy is involved in transfers more than he's letting on, because, yeah, I mean, he speaks Swedish.
At the same time, though, I can imagine Parish just being like, "Oi, Roy, how many languages you speak again? 5. One of them Swedish. Yeah, excellent."
Yeah, he's tall and got a beard. It worked with Ledley and Jedinak. Let's go with this. And
don't talk about Ledley and don't talk about Jedi, because why are they not still here?
Oh, come on now. That's a whole nother day. On an international week, I'll be happy to go in great detail on that. But we've got this other lad, haven't we? This Polish lad is coming.
Yes, he is. Right.
So who's going to try and pronounce his name first?
Oh, I'm straight in there. Jaroslav Jack. Bang. Brilliant. That's how you say it.
Is it not Yak?
Is it not
Yaroslav?
No idea.
I think it's Yaroslav Yak. Or Yaroslav Yak. I'm not going to say the Polish.
He's going to be the Yak, isn't he? As soon as, the Yak, as soon as someone, puts it out there publicly.
Well, we're going in for 2 million for him. 2 million for a player these days to play in the Premier League is nothing. It's pittance.
Yeah, exactly. He could be totally toilet and would still be, a bargain.
Yep, absolutely.
It gives us that extra cover centre back, right? I mean, that's what we so desperately need.
Which is ridiculous, because if you look at the amount of centre backs we have at the squad, it's crazy that we need another cover. It's absolutely crazy that we need yet another centre back, but that's just the way injuries work.
Is there, and this isn't the right time for us to go into the deep dive on this. We've had a massive increase in injuries since we went to the semi-artificial pitch. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, we're obviously never going to, really know how much of a difference stuff like that makes. But
someone on the subreddit who's listening to this, find out what teams have the same type of pitch we do, and then
I reckon Arsenal must do.
exactly, and United, all those teams that play lots of games and have pristine pitches, and then find out. Someone
I
do the
think
work. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take credit for it when you've done it. But
we
someone
might
out
be
there.
the last team. We might be the very last team to actually finally get a proper pitch.
Well, that Saints pitch the other day on that
It's dreadful.
night was appalling looking.
It was terrible against us as well, as it was last night. The Saints pitch is terrible. The Swansea pitch isn't great. I mean, I'm not watching the game now, of course. I wouldn't stream it while on the podcast. But their pitch isn't great. It's not just us for once on this one.
Oh, that's nice. That's
I mean,
nice.
don't get me wrong, it still sucks, and we should probably fix it. But
I've got 4 more players that are currently up in the air in terms of transfers. Ajoa from Leicester. What do we think of him? As maybe a backup to Tekers, but more of a kind of get your arse in gear lad.
I mean, it would be sod's law that he scored against Brighton when we played them in April, wouldn't it? I haven't really forgiven him for those 2 goals he scored 6 years ago, whenever it was they last beat us. So I'd want to see him score a hat-trick against the Weed, but if he does that, great.
I would really, really hope that we've gone up there to say, oh, we'll have Ozoa, that would be great. And secretly, we take Okazaki. That would be amazing. Because Okazaki looks like a Palace player.
I reckon we just take a crate of Bacardi and we bring back whichever one of them is going to come back.
Probably
I know which one's coming.
I imagine we find Nigel Pearson's son just outside some random Weatherspoons in Leicester and end up with him.
Yeah, he's going to come and finish the job on MacArthur that his dad started. Vader choke on him. What happened to Leicester? What a weird few seasons for them. Another one, £7 million move for Jack Marriott, who is a striker from Peterborough. This is through a certain newspaper, not the Moon, but the other one. I'm not saying the name. Obviously, the last time we spent between 6 and 7 million on a striker from Peterborough, it turned out to be Dwight Gale, which was, I don't know. Looking back on him, I don't know if he was as good as I rated him in my mind.
He was. It's
Don't look back
cliche.
in anger.
He was a phenomenal finisher.
I mean, he was one of those players like a Boa Morte. That's right, Boa Morte. Too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Premier League.
And if he just stayed on his feet, he would have been a much better player. I mean, we're seeing that now at Newcastle as well. He just needs to. He's the worst diver I've seen at Palace, I think, and he's squandered so many great chances by going down too easily.
Well, the issue is as well, we put him up on his own, and it's kind of like, yeah, but you need to be Glenn Murray now. We're going to hoof the ball to you. You've got to head it down and control it. And he's like, but that's not how I play. He's just this tiny little guy with not much frame on him.
5'6".
The ball up. Yeah, he's like trying to hold the ball up, and like Vincent Kompany's behind him. Like, yeah. But anyway, that's Dwight Gale. Babacar, 15 million permanent deal from Fiorentina.
Well, he's essentially been a Palace player for
He has, yeah.
3 seasons now, hasn't he? He fits the mould. He speaks French. He's black. He's quite tall. He's kind of tricky when you watch those YouTube highlights videos.
He's got a few tricks in him, definitely.
So, yeah, I mean, I genuinely wouldn't be disappointed, and I'm almost going to be disappointed if we don't ever sign him, because there's been so many times where I've edited my FIFA team to put him in it, things like that. So,
but would you take
Of all the players, he chose him.
Would you take Babacar over Moussa Dembele?
which Dembele is that? It's not the Barcelona one, is it?
No,
That's Usmane. Which one's
Usmane?
Musa?
I'd definitely take Usmane, is it?
Celtic.
No, that's like fucking hobby football in Scotland, isn't it? That's not fucking real football.
I'd
It's
take
funny. Isn't Wayne Routledge or Scott Sinclair's like the Messi of Scotland at the moment? So no, he can fuck off.
Are there any other players that you would bring? Are there any you bring back right now that we've let go that you would bring back? Like realistically, I mean, I wouldn't actually bring Jedi back at this point.
Yeah. His performances in the Championship have been suspect.
Yeah.
Well, I would
like we did the right thing.
Glenn Murray back. He's still got a role to play.
Yeah.
He would still nab goals.
I want a goalie. I'd bring Nigel Martin back from like 1992 because that's what we need. And I appreciate you've done a lot of good prep here, finding out names of players we've been linked to. I want us to be linked with a goalie who can actually catch and actually be a shot stopper and maybe play out from the back with his feet occasionally and does that thing that goalies like. It's a myth because you don't ever see it in a Palace shirt, but they do this thing where they shout and then they claim the ball. And sometimes you see opposition goalies do it at Selhurst, but it's really rare that you see a Palace goalie do it.
Well, we've been linked with that guy from Getafe as well as the one from.
Yes, yeah.
From
what we're doing is we're offering every team the asking price for their keeper plus £1 to try.
It's so embarrassing as well. I really hope that turns out just to be a paper story.
I think it's true. I read it and I just 100% went, that's true.
That's Steve Parish.
That's true. That's Steve Parish from through. Of course it is. He'll get a bargain. Of course he will.
I'm not sure it's Steve Parish. I do think Steve knows well enough we need a keeper, and I think he would have bid 5 or 6.
What,
I think
£5 or £6 over 4 million?
Because I think Parish has been used as a stalking horse there. I think poor old Steve has been taken advantage of there for the player's agent to have told a little fib, got Parish to throw an offer in, and then they've gone and used that to negotiate a better contract extension. That's what it looks like.
Possibly. I mean, you cannot trust agents in this day and age. I don't think you could have trusted them years ago either, but someone did just point out in the Discord, Kiraly, jogging bottom man. No.
Well, he played at the Euros.
No. I'm sorry. No way. No way. Absolutely no way. I mean, we've got Jules. I'm happy with Jules. He's not the best. I mean, he's an all right shot stopper. He was never the greatest keeper in the world, but he was ours. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And Hennessy is okay, but he's a backup keeper. He's fundamentally a backup keeper. We do need someone. We do desperately need someone. I mean, I'm thinking Carlo Nash.
Whatever happened with the PSG keeper?
I feel like I've gotten to a parody podcast. I feel like because I've been enjoying the parody in the know on the sub. I've been enjoying Kazar doing the whole I'm in the know thing. Was it Kazar? I don't know. Neocast is spamming that name as if we're supposed to know who it is.
Who is this Kazar guy?
He did the intro and the outro for us. So for this amazing podcast, the parody podcast, as we are now calling it. Realistically, I mean, if I'm being honest, there's a couple of players that I would bring back. We never will, but I'd bring back Victor Moses in a heartbeat.
100%. Yeah.
No, he was not Palace through and through. He's a good player, but he wasn't a Palace lad. If you ever listen to like him doing interviews, he just happened to live in Croydon and didn't really give a shit that he went to Palace.
Got dragged by Whitgift School, didn't he? And then,
yeah, exactly. It was like such a fluke, and he never kind of talks about us. It's like I get upset when you hear Ian Wright going on and on and on about Arsenal. Because you're like,
yeah,
they didn't give you a chance.
Yeah,
they gave you a chance when you were like an England striker. You know. So
I come from a family of Gooners, and I have the same argument every time. Ian Wright is one of our own. No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he never scored against Schmeichel in the Premier League for Arsenal. He did it for us in the cup final, though, didn't he? Didn't he?
Was that against Schmeichel, though?
I don't know, but I'm pretending it was.
Okay.
just go with it.
I was going to say, because I'm sadly old enough to remember, and I'm so sure it wasn't. But
let's just go with it. Let's just go with
find out for us.
We're not getting researchers for this show, because I will be... my already suspect knowledge is going to be blown out of the water. I mean, another one that I do think would be quite funny. I mean, we did it with Wilf. I mean, Wilf is becoming like the greatest player to ever put on a Palace shirt in my mind. I mean, I'm going to be able to judge it better in a few years, but on his own, he's being amazing. But I would love to get Yannick Bolasie back for like get him on loan and then sign him for like 8 mil and then laugh.
I think if Koeman had stayed and just hadn't played him, I think there would have been a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like Fraser Campbell back.
Really?
You knew what you were getting with Fraser Campbell. He was going to run around, achieve nothing, and give you false hope that something might happen.
I remember my favourite game that I saw with him was it end of the 2015 season where we played Swansea in the final game. And I made the mistake of sitting right next to the Swansea fans. This is when they all started to fight each other for no reason. And every time Wilf got the ball, they were booing mercilessly for being a Cardiff player. It's like he was on loan. He was on loan. And then we were winning 1-0. And in the 89th minute, I'm pretty sure it was like the late 80s, Pardew brought on Fraser Campbell. Like you didn't need to bring him up. And that just had me going. Just amazing.
Say what about Pardew? Entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, we need a striker. We desperately need a striker. But you can't. It's so difficult signing strikers in January. I mean, all the proven ones are playing for clubs already. You just got to kind of hit for Europe and hope you find someone.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the unproven ones are also playing for clubs. That's how football works. But
yeah.
No, but without being facetious, you're absolutely right. That if they're good enough to be scoring,
they're scoring the goals. Yeah,
Because Kuma Babakar's got 4 in 12 or something like that. He's not exactly setting Serie A on fire this season.
Nope.
But he does have nearly as many as our top scorer, Luka Milivojevic.
Yep.
And he has 500% more than our main striker. So.
How many has Tekka's actually scored? Is it one? Is it
One.
actually one? It is
the one against Leicester.
Yeah. He
had it's the one against Leicester, and then he got banned because he got a 5th yellow card, which was so stupid.
He has had 4 assists apparently.
Yeah. Fundamentally, though, he is very important still because we very much like to have the guy up front that we knock the ball to. He keeps the ball up. I mean, he does do a good job, but for 27 million, I know he played well last season, but I need more than one season for that amount of money.
I think he's doing okay now. I'll be honest with you. For me, his mobility has increased. He's actually not playing badly. And don't forget, he's a striker. He's kind of entitled to be a little bit selfish. So if he does take a shot or doesn't pass,
the confidence we're given that first touchback was given the instinct, which is how he got 17 goals for us and how he did so well for Villa. Once he gets that back, he will be a £30 million striker again, 100%.
Yeah.
And we're playing very different as well from when he scored nearly 20 goals. You know, we're not banging in so many crosses, and this was something that the pod covered last week. That one of the things that I was kind of screaming at the phone as I was playing it was, we don't have Joel Ward and we don't have Soiree. We've missed Soiree for a really long time because Schlupp and PVA are really different players, and we don't have Ward. And in front of Ward, we've also got Townsend now. It doesn't really put a lot of crosses in. He puts in more than he used to. We're in. Tekka's scored a huge amount of goals, not just headers, but he controlled the ball or get a knockdown from something else. And we're not putting balls in the box in the same way. The vast majority of this season, we've brought the ball forwards on the ground, and Tekka's is being given the ball, either blasted at him from 50 yards because we've run out of ideas at the back, or he's being given the ball with his back to goal, 30 or 40 yards out as a pass. So I do think there's that aspect. We're not putting in crosses. If you let that season of peak Christian Benteke, we were putting in an awful lot more crosses.
You make a very good point because PVA and Schlupp are essentially wingers, or they're wing backs, whereas Soiree and Ward could be defenders. You know, they could hang back and let Wilf, and now you've got Townsend, actually run the wings. Whereas Wilf, where he's been pushed more to the centre because he still has this thing of I have to do everything myself because it works. Sometimes it's incredible and he can do it all himself, but sometimes it doesn't. He does cut in a lot, and I like you said, Townsend cuts in a lot as well from the left. So I think it is going to be tough because if you're not putting the ball on Tekka's head, then there is no point at all.
No, absolutely, or at least giving him something in front of him towards the goal, so he can launch himself at it. Feet first, head first. I don't care if it's arse first. The next goal that goes in off his arse, we'll all still be jumping up and down cheering it.
Please don't say arse. I mean, 4-1.
Still getting flashbacks.
Should we look forward to the West Ham game, which is about 1,000,000 years away, next Tuesday?
Indeed.
Yeah, I think we've got a right to look forward to the West Ham game because I think we're good enough to get a result. And fortunately, having a week to go, we might actually be able to replace Chungy and Delaney on the bench.
Yeah. Well, obviously expected lineup. Well, there's 16 of them.
So Kabay will be out. We can say that much now. So we assume Wiedeval will come in for him, and it'll be Wiedeval, MacArthur, and Milivojevic in the middle. Otherwise, largely the same team as against Arsenal.
That's a real big issue that we don't have a centre attacking midfielder now.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a big issue that we don't.
But we have a World Cup winner.
Who?
We have Nia Kirby.
Nia Kirby.
Sorry.
Just
how was he in the under-21 game?
It was under 18s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of them literally couldn't have had a drink, and some of them were really good. Our two centre backs, particularly Carl Lynch on the night, was fantastic, and in such a Palace moment, Carl Lynch skilled up, I think, 3 Newcastle players after he got a knockdown from a corner. And he skilled them up. He laid the ball off to James Daly, our number 9, who was terrific the whole game. And at that moment, you're thinking just anywhere but at the keeper, anywhere. Massive goal in front of you. And it just went straight to the keeper. And I think no one was more upset in the stadium than Carl Lynch. I don't.
First team quality right there.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got the pedigree right there.
And anybody who moans about the mobility of Benteke, I urge you to go and watch either the full match replay or any under 18s game with James Daly in it. That poor lad did not stop running the entire 120 minutes. He put a shift in. He was everywhere, hassling every defender. Was awesome. I wouldn't be disappointed to see him on the bench. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Nia Kirby on the bench. Of all the others, I don't think we've got anything. But I mean, this is under 18s. They're way too early to be putting most of them in. But Nia Kirby bossed that game. I think he's there. I think he'd certainly be good enough to make the bench. He'd have far too much time on the ball in the under 18s compared to the first team. But I think the only way he's going to get used to the match pace of the first team is to be in the first team.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to risk putting him in too early and then just having his confidence completely shot. That's always a risk, isn't it?
It is, but I'm not sure. At 18 you're going to do that to him. I mean, the kid he's just won the World Cup. I don't think he's not one of these players at risk of like losing a contract or something like that. He was, yeah. You could well be right. We'll be reading the Nia Kirby autobiography in 10 years about how we destroyed him by putting him in against West Ham. But I'd like to think against West Ham is better than against like City or Arsenal.
Big book of footballers: Nia Kirby, C. John Bostock.
Let's not go down that route again.
Yeah, let's not go down that route. It's funny to me because obviously we got Hodgson and Moyes, 2 managers that were rightly or wrongly mocked in the last season. Obviously we had the Hodgson Iceland debacle, and Moyes has just been struggling since his United tenure. But it's 2 managers now that have come back and said, look, we've taken over clubs that are decent size, and now you've got West Ham and Palace are both putting in performances and getting really good results.
Yeah. This does come back to what you were saying earlier about that there is actually a mid-table, but it's it's been distorted because of bad managing beforehand. And you can't realistically look at Palace and West Ham and say either of us are going to go down. Now, I know I'm counting our chickens too early, but we're probably not going to go down. West Ham probably aren't going to go down. And a lot of that is because of these classic old British managers. I'm about to say English there, but not quite. It's a credit to both of them that they've managed to turn their reputations around and are getting the respect of the footballing world back. I think Moyes has a lot more to do, though. And if he gets top 10 with West Ham, then he'll be down that path. But he's turned it around to an extent, certainly.
I think that one of the things you hear being talked about and you read about, particularly with Roy and David Moyes, they're not managers like Pardew, or maybe even Allardyce, who come in and put their arm around the players and say, "Oh, you've been playing rubbish under last fella. Here's a hug and maybe a word that's original." Or in Alan's case, we'll go to the strip club together and Crystal's going to sort us out. It's with Roy and with David Moyes. They're coaching the players out of bad habits. They're coaching them into better ones. You can see West Ham playing significantly better football. You can see Palace playing significantly better football. Roy maybe got a little bit ahead of himself, and we went out on the front foot against Arsenal at the Emirates. But that's where
that's nice though. It's nice to actually see us going. I mean, with City, we went at them. We didn't. Don't respect these teams. Go at them.
So what would you do? What would you do against West Ham? Would you go out against West Ham, or would you do what we did in the second half against Arsenal?
Do what we did in the second half. I think, given we're away from home, I appreciate the Olympic Stadium isn't a great home for them, but they do seem to be turning it around a little bit there. We can't get too cocky too quickly because players like Arnautovic will hurt us.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because we've now got. I mean, I haven't looked at the run we've got, but I think the biggest games realistically are behind us. I think we've got one or two more where it's kind of like big clubs, but this is where at this point of this, from the start of the season to now, I was really kind of worried and thinking, well, is this where we're going to really have to get these points to try and stay up? We are obviously going to have to try and get points to stay up, but it feels like we are now starting to build on something. I mean, we've lost our last two games. We obviously lost the Brighton game, but I mean, it didn't really.
Have we? We lost one.
Well, no, because we lost the FA Cup and then we lost Arsenal. So I'm thinking in terms of not just the Premier League.
Didn't we have Burnley after the FA Cup?
Oh yeah, we did. We've lost 2 of the last 3 games.
That speaks volumes that we are still winning games, even when it feels like we're losing.
Oh, somebody has now put the sign up for me. Spurs, United, Chelsea, Huddersfield, and Liverpool. Like I said, easy run. You want to watch out for Huddersfield, obviously tripping up there.
Well, I made a few comments in Discord at the end of December or mid-December. So if by the end of the transfer window we were on 25 points, we'd be in a very strong position because our run-in at the end of the season is comfortably the best or the easiest in the Premier League. And we have, I think, is it 8 games which are all winnable at the end or 6?
Yeah.
So 25 right now.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Solid 6 games at the end of the season which are winnable. And that's 25 is a wonderful base to build on, and I really think we will build on that, even if we lose to West Ham and Newcastle.
Excellent. Any final thoughts, lads?
Up to Palace. I look forward to our new signings.
I'm hoping the West Ham game is not as cold as the Arsenal one was, and that the Olympic Stadium is a little bit loud in the Emirates. I don't understand Arsenal, how they can make so little noise when they're 4-0 up, but there you go.
They can't afford the noise after their thousands of pound season ticket. They literally cannot afford. They're trying to keep the heat in by not shouting. They're not singing. Yeah, it's.
They need to switch energy supply.
On that note, see you later.
See you guys.
That was quite good fun.